There is a reason why, even with the passage of time, with silence predominating and with all the decisions already made, that person still remains alive in their thoughts. It is as if his presence manifests itself as a persistent whisper that refuses to disappear. Maybe you've tried everything, to change your environment, to occupy your mind with new activities, to convince yourself that that story is behind you. However, it resurfaces, in dreams, in memories, in songs, or even in the loose words spoken by other people, without any apparent intention. But what does it really mean to repeatedly think about someone who is no longer an active part of your life? Carl Jung, a renowned thinker of the unconscious, would not classify this as simple attachment or emotional dependence. For him, the mind that is not awake to conscious reason works with codes and reasons that have not yet been fully understood. When someone remains deeply imprinted in your inner world, it does not necessarily mean that you should resume contact or that love is still alive. Often, this indicates that there is something inside you that has not yet been recognized, embraced, or healed. That person may have been just the instrument that brought this issue to light. Jung argued that human encounters are not the work of chance. Each individual who passes through our life, especially those who provoke an emotional imprint, fulfills a psychic function. They act as mirrors, reflecting aspects that we have not yet been able to see in ourselves. Therefore, the insistent memory of someone may have little to do with that person himself and much more to do with what he symbolized. Perhaps this person touched an old wound, represented an unconscious image formed from childhood, or served as a catalyst for an inner awakening that you have not yet fully understood. Constantly thinking about someone, then, is not a sign that love is not over, but that there is something inside you that is still in the process of transformation. The mind, when it does not fully understand an experience, tends to repeat it. She does it to try to understand, to try to heal. And as long as the lesson is not assimilated, it will continue to return. Jung stated it clearly: everything that you do not bring to consciousness will eventually manifest itself in your life as destiny. If instead of fighting these thoughts, you choose to listen to them with genuine curiosity, not out of longing or a desire to return, you can see which parts of you have been activated by that person. What pains did she touch? What emotions did she force you to face? What demands attention is not the person itself, but the part of you that was revealed during that connection. Often, the mind insists on reminding us of someone because there is something unfinished inside of us. This pending work is not on the outside, nor is it with the other, it inhabits its own inner world. This is where the real soul dive begins. It is not about abruptly cutting ties or pretending that history never existed. What matters is to face the emotional truth left as a trace. As long as you run away from this echo will continue to reverberate within you. It is not about idealizing what has happened, much less about clinging to something that no longer exists. It's about recognizing that your unconscious mind is still working through the remnants of that connection. Jung said that when an emotional experience is not integrated, it becomes an energetic knot in the psyche. This knot influences your choices, your future relationships, and even your self-esteem. Thinking about that person, therefore, is not weakness. It is the reflection of something that is still waiting for understanding, something that needs to be embraced, not with rejection, but with compassion. You are not crazy, you are not broken, nor are you weak for still remembering. You are human, going through one of the deepest processes that a soul can experience, that of integrating a transformative emotional experience. Don't punish yourself for it. On the contrary, be thankful that your mind is clearly showing what still needs your affection and presence. Often, we believe that it is love that binds us to someone. But love is not always the link that keeps us connected. Sometimes, what remains is an unresolved emotion, an unconscious need, or an image that we project without realizing it. According to Jung, we don't just love with our hearts. We love with the entirety of our psyche. And in this psychic structure dwell fragments of history, repressed desires, fears never faced, and symbols that lead us to what we still need to learn. If you still find yourself thinking about that person, maybe it's not out of love. It can be a psychic resonance, an internal response to something that figure has awakened within you, but has not yet been fully understood. Thinking frequently about someone can be the reflection of an archetype activated within you. Perhaps this person has represented, in his unconscious mind, the image of a savior, an unattainable ideal, an emotional safe haven, or even a shadow disguised as light. Carl Jung taught that the collective unconscious is inhabited by universal images, present in all cultures and individuals. These archetypes shape our perceptions, emotions, and experiences, often without us realizing it. When someone awakens one of these images deep within us, the impact can be so intense that, even with the physical absence, the feeling of emptiness remains. This emptiness, however, does not exist because the person is irreplaceable, but because the symbol he represented has not yet been fully understood or absorbed. This constant presence in thoughts, therefore, is usually not about the person himself, but about a need for closure, a closure not with the other, but within oneself. It is the unconscious calling you back to the instant when everything changed. Not so that you remain trapped there, but so that you can redeem what you lost when you gave yourself without limits. Maybe you sacrificed parts of yourself for love. It may be that you have silenced your voice to avoid conflict, adapted your way of being to fit into the other person's world, or even suppressed your desires to maintain a false harmony. And although this person is no longer present in your life, the echo of this abandonment of self continues to vibrate. Each time you think about her, your unconscious may not be clamoring for the relationship itself, but trying to give you back what was left behind. It is as if to say, "Look here." It was at this point that you accepted a silent agreement. Here you are no longer whole. The desire to resume the connection may not be related to the person, but rather to the desire to return to oneself. And this, according to Jung, is the true spiritual work, to recover the lost parts of oneself along the journey of love, even when loving meant forgetting oneself. Remembering someone is not always a sign of nostalgia. In many cases, it is an internal resistance to maturation, because growing up requires accepting that, no matter how significant the story has been, it has already fulfilled its role. And it is in this clash between the conscious and the unconscious that the conflict is born. The rational mind understands that the cycle has ended, but the soul still seeks to understand. He doesn't just want to move on, he wants to assimilate, he wants to transform pain into wisdom. And for that, distractions or desperate attempts to silence thoughts are not necessary. What is needed is a sincere and compassionate look at what actually happened. What did you discover about yourself during that relationship? Which parts have flourished? Which ones have gone out? Did you love the person or the image you created of them? These questions are not simple ramblings. They are keys. Keys that open internal doors that have remained locked since the end of the story. Your soul recognizes that thinking about this person is not a mistake, it is a calling. An invitation to wake up. And the more you accept this call without judgment, the closer you get to true closure, one that doesn't rely on dialogue, reunions, or external validations, but rather on a deep, personal acceptance that everything was exactly as it needed to be, and now, the path is to return to yourself. When Jung spoke of the process of individuation, he was referring precisely to this, the journey back to the center of one's own being. Each intense bond, each loss, each love that left a scar on the soul, is part of this trajectory. Not to imprison, but to refine who you are. As if each person you loved was a mirror revealing parts of yourself that you didn't know yet. When you remember that person, what you are really seeing is not him, but yourself, in a new light. There are bonds that do not break with distance. Some people don't need to be physically present to continue influencing their emotions, thoughts, and even everyday decisions. That is the real depth of a psychic bond. It is not measured by physical proximity, but by the invisible mark left within you. This mark, as Jung explained, is not only the vestige of love lived. It is the result of a resonance between your unconscious and the symbolic role that that person played in your existence. You are not stuck in the past by fragility. He is, in fact, being guided by his soul, which still has something to reveal through that story. Something that you may not have been able to hear while you were emotionally involved. During an intense relationship, especially those that touch the deepest points of the being, it is difficult to maintain clarity. Emotion clouds reasoning. Feelings take over. But when it all comes to an end, when silence sets in, the real chance of understanding arises. And remembering that person doesn't have to mean a setback. It may be the beginning of a profound revelation, the birth of a wisdom that has been waiting to blossom. Carl Jung believed that true encounters between souls were not simple chances. According to him, they are mutual recognitions that occur at levels far beyond rational consciousness. That's why, even after trying to move forward logically, there's still something inside you that resists. Something that holds an undeciphered message, a teaching hidden in that experience, waiting to be fully understood. This lesson, however, is not with the other. It resides in you. It dwells on what the relationship has awakened, on what has stirred within it, and on how it has brought about a transformation, even if that change has hurt. Many times, we desperately seek to understand the other, why he did what he did, why he left, why he hurt us. We believe that the answer will bring relief. But the truth is that closure does not depend on the behavior of others. The true end is to see, with courage, what still lives within us. Maybe they hurt you, maybe they disappointed you, left you without any explanation. But beyond the pain, there is something that your soul needs to absorb. And this learning does not come from reason. It springs from the emotional experience that keeps pulsating in you. What remains in your mind is not the figure of the person, but the unfinished sensation, the interrupted emotional process, suspended in time. It is like a story without an end point, which cries out for recognition, for acceptance, and for liberation. The hardest thing to leave behind is not the other, it's the part of you that has emerged next to him. It's that version of you that appeared during the relationship, maybe more sensitive, more vulnerable, more intense. A part of you that you still don't know if it was worthy of being loved. And when that facet was rejected or ignored, and you didn't know how to deal with it, the mind got stuck in repetition. Remembering, analyzing, trying, in every way, to understand what was experienced. But what you need is not more responses from the outside world, it's allowing yourself to feel what you've been avoiding. Jung said that what we resist persists. And often, constant thought is nothing more than the echo of an emotion that you refuse to face. So, ask yourself honestly, what did you really feel in that experience? What fear was so great that you decided to bury it? What part of you was silenced to maintain that connection? It is there, at this exact point, that the true bond that still binds you is found. Emotional liberation is not a direct path, and much less immediate. It is a dive into the depths of the soul. And although it hurts, that pain is proof that something inside you is awakening. Perhaps what you need most is not to stop thinking about that person, but to stop judging yourself for it. Because as long as you are at war with your own thoughts, you will not be able to hear the message that they carry. And it is this message that brings with it the keys to healing, expansion, transformation. Your unconscious isn't trying to punish you with memories, it's trying to guide you to something greater. Not to bring someone back, but to bring you back to your center, to your inner home, where you feel complete without needing external validation. When you finally understand what that person stood for, when you integrate the meaning of their presence into your story, you no longer need them to be here physically to find peace. And that is true freedom, to remember without pain, to let go without fear, to love without being imprisoned. Perhaps, at some point, you have tried to replace this person. She may have sought, consciously or not, someone to fill the void she left. Perhaps he compared all the new encounters with the one who left. And, as much as I tried, the feeling is that nothing fits, that no new story resonates with the same intensity. This does not occur because the person is irreplaceable. It is because the bond you created was beyond the human level, it was symbolic. The connection has activated something in you that has never been accessed before. And now, your journey is to find that part of yourself through self-knowledge, no longer through the presence of the other. This is where the real healing begins. That's where you regain your power. It is in this reunion with yourself that the version of you that not only survives absence, but flourishes is born. Jung said that every deep bond activates an inner dimension, a hidden layer of the psyche that usually lies dormant until a meaningful connection awakens it. When you miss someone, you're often not just missing their physical presence, but the version of yourself that existed when you were with that person. Maybe you were more sensitive, more sincere with your feelings, more connected with your emotions. Or perhaps, in that bond, you have lost yourself, given up parts of yourself to maintain the illusion of being united. In both cases, thinking about that person is, deep down, thinking about a part of you that needs to be rescued, understood, and welcomed. This is what transforms a memory into wisdom. The unconscious is constantly trying to re-establish internal balance. He is not your enemy. He doesn't want you to suffer or get stuck in the past. He uses the resources he has, dreams, recurring thoughts, unexpected emotions, to lead him to integration. If someone frequently occupies your mind, it is because there is an emotional story inside you that has not yet been fully processed. And this processing does not happen with logic, but through the symbolic language of the soul. According to Jung, healing is not a rational process. It is an inner alchemy, an unconscious transformation that only happens when you allow the unknown within you to become conscious. This alchemy requires silence, introspection, and the willingness to look fondly at everything you've experienced, not with nostalgia or guilt, but with gratitude. Gratitude not for what was lost, but for what was revealed. Each encounter that leaves a mark on us brings with it a seed of transformation. Even if you now only see pain or confusion, within that experience is an essential element of your awakening. The goal is not to erase the memory, it is to release the weight it carries. And this is only possible when you stop looking for answers outside and start listening to what lives inside.